parish community of St. Joseph in Scarborough, Tobago is not only rich in beauty, but also faith and community. There is a spirit on this beautiful isle that is alive and vibrant, a sharp contrast to Tobago's sleepy, relaxed village feel. Our Catholic News team sat down with the Catholic community in the parish of St. Joseph to understand what makes this community so close and loving. Join us as we explore the community of the St. Joseph Parish, Scarborough, prior to their feast day on March the 19th and the consecration of their church and altar.
I am Desiree Surrett. I am a lay minister, parishes of Mount St. George and Patience Hill. I came to Tobago 24 years ago. The population of Tobago is about 60,000. The average number of people in Patience Hill could vary between 40 to 70. Mount St. George varies 10 to 20. Average 12, yes, on Sundays. Because Tobago is a small Catholic community, and because we all have to live together as Christians, we incorporate everyone. So if like in Mount St. George recently, the church was damaged, and I went and I asked the 7-day if they would accommodate us, and they said, great, yes, but eventually we were able to clean up a little bit and use the church, the chapel, I should say chapels, because it's the main church, Scarborough and Delaford, and the others are outstations, really chapels, small communities. And of course, Tobago is still a village community, so we have to live with each other, so everybody knows everybody. So you can't play too much, I am this big boy, I am this Catholic big boy, because you have to live with your brother and sister if we are to live the spirit of the gospel. So we will be having our Lenten retreat, and it incorporates all the other Christian communities. So for the 5 days, we have each a different Christian person denomination who will preach at our Lenten retreat. But right now we are trying to get back, because we have lost a lot of the faithful in their not wanting to come and be part of a packed church. So we are trying to foster a lot of programs. We are also doing a lot of outreach in going back to do ministry to the sick and shut-ins and inviting them. Recently we had a retreat at Our Lady of Lourdes in Patience Hill, in which we prayed for Trinidad and Tobago, but which at the end of the retreat we had a healing mass. Father Leslie performed that, and we invited the sick to come, yes, to come and be part of that mass. And it was lovely. We blessed candles, oil, salt, and we gave it out to the communities. So for the days of the retreat, you know, they were full, and they were full in number, but for the last day when we had that, it was a lot. So people still know the value of coming out to that kind of mass and that kind of celebration. And we invite other members to come in the village to come and participate. It's not about us and it's celebrating the Catholic faith, but it's about us celebrating who Jesus Christ is. What we do, especially Mount St. George, is different and special. When we celebrate the liturgy, for our reflection, or even the homily when Father gives it, is we sit and discuss it. We sit and discuss how does this liturgy affect you? How does it affect you today? Because when we are called to love, and when we are called to live it, and like this morning he calls us, you know, be humble. We know it's difficult and it's challenging. So we all sit and discuss all our challenges. It encourages that I have a voice too and I'm not lost. Because sometimes you sit next to a person and you don't know what they are going through until they start to speak, and we encourage young ones. Like I had a 7-year-old sitting next to me in church, and so Father asked her, you know, what do you think? And she said, what she gathered, this is 7, do not be afraid. And I thought, wow, and how I could incorporate that from the first reading, second reading and the gospel, and how she knitted it all together and said, do not be afraid. When I was working, I was the only Catholic person, and I would put up these little pictures on the wall, They were not Catholic per se, but they were Jesus oriented. So, they said, yeah, she's Catholic.
I am Richard McFarland. I serve as a lay minister here, specifically responsible for the community of St. Anthony's in Mason Hall. I am part of the church's teaching ministry, preparation of RCIA candidates, as well as in the preparation of our confirmation candidates. Ecumenism in Tobago is a natural outflow of Tobago's culture. Tobago has a very intimate culture that allows for sharing at so many different levels at St. Anthony's in Mason Hall. And within a few hundred feet of each other, we have an Anglican communion, Methodist communion, Seventh-day communion, of course, Roman Catholic, and Pentecostal communions. Funerals at St. Anthony's are less a church event and more a community event that brings persons regularly from across the faith traditions. But interestingly, we have regular attendees to Sunday Mass or Sunday Eucharistic services who are non-Catholic. After that, they leave and they attend their own communities. So it speaks to an understanding that we are truly brothers and sisters at a very basic and foundational level. There isn't an activity that takes place at any one of the faith communities that isn't supported by all the others. We regularly invite others to come in, and we are consistently invited to participate in, to share with and attend the functions of the others. I recall one of our own parishioners suffered a very tragic accident a few years ago where their house caught fire and was burned to the ground, and one of the family members died in the fire. We decided to assist the family by launching a major fundraiser to help raise funds so that they can begin to rebuild their lives. Well, that fundraiser, though it was initiated by the St. Anthony's community, didn't belong to us wholly and solely, because every other faith tradition indicated that they wanted to be a part of it, and they supported it as strongly and as vibrantly as the community of St. Anthony's did. In fact, it became a true community initiative. I would say it is a love for Christ, but it is a love for Christ that is expressed, experienced, and lived in a concern for each other. And I think that you see that there. Mason Hall, that particular community, has its issues, it has its challenges, it has its difficulties. But at the heart of the community is a sense of belonging, a sense of communal responsibility that is very evident. And though significant percentage of the population in the community may not necessarily attend any one of the churches, there's still this underlying sense of belonging, of responsibility, care and concern for each other. I think youth falling off after confirmation, I think it's a natural phenomenon. I think it mirrors growth in natural life. That we get to a particular age, late teens, early adulthood, And there's this natural inclination to find, make, and shape our own way, you know. And there's a natural tendency, not necessarily to rebel, but to explore and to see how I can chart a way for myself. You know, I think the church does that. The church allows for searching, exploring, going away and coming back. It allows for that because I'm confident that Christ allows for that. And the age of searching, this age of exploration, really is that age that immediately follows confirmation. I did it. I left home at age 19 and moved to the United States, and I stopped attending church. But of course I have a praying mother and a praying wife, thank God. So I am not necessarily alarmed and too overly concerned about young people who go off. You know, I think what we have to do as a church is be prepared for when they return. So naturally, our young people getting out of high school must, not just will, but they must, if they desire to continue to develop, must leave Tobago to seek education, to seek employment. And unfortunately, a number of them, when they do that, they move away from not just their family home, but the home of the church that they had been attached to, and would not necessarily immediately attach themselves to a new church. I think what is important is that we encourage them, yes, go, but know that there's always a place for you to return to. I did a retreat some years ago. It was facilitated by a Jesuit. And he said this. He said there's a dimension to God's love that can only be experienced after you go away from it and then come back. And I think that is so very significant for us to hold on to, and to not be afraid of our children going away, but making sure that we have laid a foundation that is sufficient to bring them back. It's not a tragedy. I don't think that Jesus is sitting in heaven and saying, oh my God. Jesus is sitting in heaven simply with arms open, waiting, knowing that his children will come back.
I am Nigel Philip. I am the president of the Society of St. Vincent de Paul Scarborough Conference, and also the national president of the Society of St. Vincent de Paul for Trinidad and Tobago. We have several communities throughout Tobago. In Tobago, we have two conferences, which are originally three conferences. Two conferences, is one in Scarborough and the one in Patience Hill. But however, one came to a close, and that the conference in Delaford area, Roxborough area. Our mandate in Tobago is basically in serving the poor and vulnerable amongst us throughout the island. We assist persons with various challenges, persons with food support. We assist persons with rental support, medical support, educational support, and we do assist persons with some structural support for their homes. We help, depends on the needs assessment in giving the persons the necessary help. Our reach is to anyone of any religion or any race, things like that. And also we embrace the migrants population. The challenge with these migrants is that they don't have a job most times, and they will do menial jobs around when it's being offered or when they can get it. So we try to get the support in terms of having working along with other organizations such as IOM and UNFPA to aid in the support for the migrants here on the island. Throughout the COVID pandemic, which we still are in the pandemic, we would have provided support to close to 425 migrants in Tobago only. We live in a period where service is challenged. And the reason why I said service is challenged, because long ago, persons would want to be part of a group, or they want to be part of an organization to serve. And if you were to get persons to serve now, and not just young people, people ask, what is it in for them? And if there's nothing in it for them, then there will be some sort of hesitancy in service to the future of Society of St. Vincent de Paul. And it worries me to the point the ones who are already in St. Vincent de Paul and who are unable to serve because of their age and their illnesses and those things. And it worries me in some of the conference closure because you're not having that support of service. And having to look forward, I believe it will all depend on what the church is doing. And I said what the church is doing because we have different groups in the church. And let me look at the youth groups. What are we preparing the youth groups for after they finish confirmation? And if we don't have a structure where we could put those children or persons there to go into service, or to even to be a priest, or to be a lay minister, or to be some sort of leader, then every leadership in the church would be challenged, because as a leader not going to be here for a while, or anybody who is a leader not going to be there for a while. You must have someone to serve.
My name is Clinton P. Ross Jr. I am presently a member of the Scarborough Roman Catholic Church, being presently involved in many different things. From my confirmation class, our group formed the youth group, which evolved into our church choir, which has survived to this day. We were involved since our confirmation days in many missions. We never had a quiet weekend. We would visit the Home for the Aged at the Scarborough Hospital. We'd also, on another weekend, visit the St. Vincent Home for the Aged at Mason Hall. And the free weekend, we'd either go to the beach or take a hike. So we kept together quite a bit. We have had many priests who have involved the church members in many different activities. Lay leaders who would visit the sick, who would carry communion and give you what happened in church that weekend to our people who are not in church. I was fortunate to be such a member. I think that's needed in Tobago, being that the Roman Catholic faith is not a majority here. We have few churches, none basically in the West. So we do have to go out there and encourage people to come and go out and meet them. And our present priest, he has encouraged us to at least have once a month community observances, where we get together for sports, a service, so that stop the division, come together, so that we do get to know each other. Otherwise, we wouldn't really know each other. Tobago is small, but it is big. And you meet many people outside. I, for example, being in the church choir, you are at the front of the church, facing the front. You don't really see the congregation. And many times you meet people who are going to the same church for years and you didn't know. And they would come and introduce themselves to you. That says something. That says something. So having community events has really helped us to expand our circle and make them larger and stronger. Well, it's hereditary. My father was. My two brothers and myself also. Yeah, so now that they have girls, she's involved. And she enjoys it. She likes serving. She likes dealing with young people. And we stick to it. We stick to it. It's a bit frustrating now that COVID was around for us for quite a while. So they are trying to recover at this point in time. And seeking to rejuvenate them and get more members in at this point in time. So that we are trying to restart our youth group here, and with Brother Matthias, and hopefully very soon we'll have a vibrant young community to take over from us when we leave.
My name is Catherine George. I am the coordinator of Magnificat, a lector. I am a lay minister. I'm part of the congregation at St. Joseph for the past 40 plus years. You know, Magnificat has become a part of our lives because I was thrown into the leadership role
when I was asked to lead Magnificat, I knew that I had to become more familiar with Mary as mother. So I would ask myself the questions, why is she mother? How I am her child? And for some reason, I became exposed to a lot of literature. And again, the work of God. My son, who was about to become a priest, had a whole stock of books. And when he changed his mind, he sent them home. So I had these books and I didn't know what to do with them. So I would start looking into them and I would pick up little pieces that I would hold to my heart. And from then, I had a different mindset about Mary. I was entering into a new relationship, seeing her in a new way. So from there, Magnificat, being coordinator, started to become a little bit easier, and we would meet every Wednesday as the team, as the core team, and that was my opportunity to share what I would discover about her. And my sisters were so excited, and we all began getting excited, more and more excited about Mary. So as for the community, we would have had meals, what we call the Magnificat meal, where we share a light meal, but we share a woman's testimony as the main meal of what Mary has done in her life, how she sees Mary. Because the Magnificat, of course, is centered around the visitation. Mary is received as she is given. And I think most of us Catholics, for a long time, we're not in a position to say or to give the reason for our faith, as Scripture quotes, that we are supposed to be able to give a reason for what we believe. And in that way, Mary has become a part of everything, because wherever Jesus is, as the church teaches us, there she is. So it's like we can't teach Jesus without Mary. And I would tell them that, we can't teach Jesus without Mary. St. Joseph became my favorite person a few years ago. And when the priest read that he was a just man, I said, Lord, I need a just man in my life. And, I actually began to look more closely at Joseph, in that he allowed Mary to do God's will. So the plan came in different ways. It's like Pharaoh, how God made Pharaoh's heart stubborn. God does his thing, but it is allowing God to work in our lives.
My name is Beverly Ann Peters, and I'm a member of this St. Joseph Parish. And I am part of both the catechist community, and I do assist with the First Communion classes. And I'm also the president of the hospitality ministry at the St. Joseph Parish. And I really love that word, inclusivity, because when people come to church, you want to accept them as God's guest, which we all are. When we come to church, we come to serve our triune God, and we want to feel that you're comfortable. So our ministry is there to seat you and to ensure that if you have any problems at all, that it is addressed. For instance, as simple as it may be, that you want to find the bathrooms, or you may need to get some water, you may not feel well. All these things we take care of in the parish. And if, for instance, any doesn't come to church on a weekend, we would miss that person, because you just know everybody as they come through the doors, and it is such joy as we see our committees and our visitors coming through, that we are welcoming them to worship with us and to participate in our masses or our services, and that we are just here to work for God as a group. Well, Father Tankai has more energy than I believe the children in the parish. And it is such joy working with somebody. And what he does is that he allows you to enjoy serving God. You do it so second nature with him, that it is not a burden. You just work freely. Right now we have a couple of young ones, but they are so humble and so nice up there that you actually feel the Spirit of Jesus within them as they go up. And it's nice that they have just come out of First Communion. They haven't even been through confirmation. So it is a joy being part of that catechist class and seeing it transform into our church celebrations and masses.
My name, President Parisian.
So I am Richard Parisian, and what she did in the parish is that she gave the church 8 children who, because of them, as in my mother and my father is deceased, they were heavily involved in the parish life, and because of that, we ourselves are also heavily involved. Of course, not all of us are residents here in Tobago, but yeah, that's what she did. She's a bit humble, but she was the president of the St. Vincent de Paul a few years. Well, no longer. 18 years.
One morning, my husband and I dropped off one of my daughter's sword, and as we were going back home, there was a girl about 15 and 2 other boys. And the girl had a baby on her shoulder. I was wondering if the child is hers. So we stopped and I told them, asked them where they was going. She said she was going to drop her this baby at her aunt. And I said, how come you're not in school? She said, well, she didn't have a pair of shoes. And her mother couldn't afford to buy her a shoe now, right? So I kept chatting with her. And I said, what about the boys? She said, well, they don't have school clothes either. And I asked her what time my mother is be at home. And they told me. I got one of the other members to go with me, and we sat down and talked with my mother, you know. And instead of letting them stay home, at least we were able to give them, you know, uniforms that the boys could go to school and that the girls, that kind of thing.
It's not just opening your mouth and sing, but it's a ministry. It's something that you could impart on someone and make them feel a part of the divine. I have had friends who perhaps have never been in a Catholic church, and for whatever reason, when they came to this church, they are in awe, as in, I didn't believe I was in a Catholic church. For some reason, they think that the Catholic Church is dead and dreary, but we have pan here, we have all the musical instruments, so that adds to it. Perhaps in another Catholic church where those resources or personnel are not available, it's a different experience. But here at Scarborough, the music ministry would bring you alive.
The parish of St. Joseph can bottle and sell community spirit. Despite the destruction of the original church building by Hurricane Flora in 1963, the Tobagonian Catholic community has continued to thrive. Currently under the spiritual direction of Father Leslie Tankai, the parish is sowing the seeds of ecumenism and blooming by sharing the Word of God with their brothers and sisters in Christ.